Hi, welcome back. So we are looking at these different tasks involved in AI, and we did talk about problem solving followed by knowledge representation and reasoning. And now we'll talk about the next task, which is decision making. And just a heads up, this is where we'll now slowly start moving into the data science world or start intersecting with the data science world. So let's see how. So traditionally, in the 50s and say up to 70s, 80s, expert systems were what is used for decision making, right? So what does an expert system mean and in what context can it be used? So think of a doctor or think of a hospital which is interested in automatically diagnosing whether a patient has a dengue or not, right? And these are the rules that a doctor typically uses to perform this diagnosis, that if the patient has rash and has vomiting and has high fever, then it implies that the patient has dengue. Of course, there would be other such combinations, right? It could be possible that the patient does not have a rash, but he has very severe cold and cough, in which case, again, cold and cough combined with vomiting and high fever would mean dengue. So I've just written one sample rule here. And again, coming back to the reasoning which I was talking about, right? Now, has high fever. How do I conclude that? I conclude that from another rule in my rule base, which says that if temperature is greater than 102, then it implies that the patient has high fever. So now what is the input that I get is just the temperature. Based on that, I'll first have to reason whether the patient has high fever. Using that, I'll again have to reason whether the patient has dengue. If the other two inputs are also true, that means I've also been given an input that the patient has rash and the patient had vomiting also, right? So this is how reasoning happens formally in a knowledge graph, and hence you need this kind of a knowledge representation in first order logic and propositional logic, right? So now what our expert systems, they were just an embodiment of these rules. So the rules were given by domain experts, in this case a doctor, and then the rules were encoding using a knowledge representation, and then finally you write a program which executes these rules and does reasoning on top of them, right? Or rather takes these rules, does reasoning, and then gives you an answer whether the person has patient or not, right? And then you could use things like Prolog for this kind of theorem proving, where you have certain rules and based on that you want to prove certain other rules, right? So you have rule about temperature, then you have a rule about fever, and then based on these rules you want to prove whether the person has dengue or not, right? So that's what again classical AI deals with a lot of this. You will learn Prolog, you will learn knowledge representation and these kind of things in classical AI, and this is being used for decision making. And this is also a very popular paradigm, as I said, in 50s, 60s and so on. Even today, there are many systems which are expert systems because these systems are very precise. If you're working in a domain where the rules are so well defined, right? If you know exactly what are the symptoms which lead to dengue, why would you use machine learning or deep learning to learn from data when the rules are already known to an expert? And he can express those rules clearly using these knowledge representation techniques, then that's where you should just stick to expert systems. And in many domains, even today, given their reliability, because this rule is so true, it's so sure that I cannot go wrong with it, right? And so I would rely on expert systems in these domains. For example, right, so in the 1990s, NASA for their space launches, right? If you have seen these movies where you have these kind of checks, right? Oxygen level check, pressure check, and so on. You have a series of these checks, and then finally someone says that we are ready for a launch, right? So these kind of monitoring systems were also expert systems based because the rules were very clear defined. If you know that the temperature is above a certain degree, then it means that it's a catastrophic situation. Then don't trigger the launch, right? And so on. So in such cases, they are still popular, right? But now expert systems have their own limitations, right? So in some cases the rules may be too complex, right? I cannot really express these rules. For example, if a person has jaundice, now the doctor looks at his or her skin and they realize, okay, it looks very pale or yellow, and hence it should be diagnosed as jaundice. But how do we express this rule, right? How do you measure the yellowness of a skin, right? That's very hard to do. So in such cases, rules may not be expressible. In some cases, the rules may be completely unknown. For example, for dengue, the rules are known, but for Ebola, the rules are not really known. So doctors themselves don't know that if I look at a bunch of symptoms, which of these actually definitely say Ebola or definitely rule out Ebola. And this happens for new diseases as they come along, right? And in many cases, the first condition may also be true, that the rules are too complex, and hence a human can't really write them out in any expressible way, right? So that's where people started facing this limitation that in many applications, I can't really sit down and write all the rules. I don't even have a domain expert who can tell me what the rules are. So that's where I'll try an alternative approach where I'll use large amounts of data to learn from that data. And that's where machine learning steps in, right? And so that's what decision making is a part of AI. If you do it using expert systems which rely on knowledge representation, reasoning, and then decision, you don't really intersect with the data science world. But now if you start learning from data, that's where machine learning steps in, and we know machine learning has an intersection with data science. So let's see what I mean by that. Same figure which you had seen earlier. Now I'm interested in predicting whether a person has Ebola or not. I don't know what the rules are. How does Ebola depend on the weight? If the weight is high and if the temperature is high, is it a different interpretation if as compared to a person who was 10 kgs lighter but is 1 degree lower temperature today, right? So that might be some dependence on that. I don't know this. I just throw all these variables, all these predicted variables, and for past many patients, I know that they had Ebola or did not have Ebola, right? Based on a test or based on their eventual diagnosis or eventually what happened to them, right? So I have all this data, I have the recordings of all their measurements, and I know that this was Ebola, this patient was not Ebola. I just throw all this data at a machine. I try out a good model, a good function F from the repository of functions available in machine learning, including deep learning for that matter. And now my job is only to estimate F using this data and use optimization techniques to do that. And for a new patient now, I'll just plug in the value of X to find Y. And remember, X here is high dimensional. I have all information about the patient, including age, weight, height, blood pressure, and so on, right? So that's the machine learning way of solving this. I don't know the rules. I'm not going to build expert systems. I have lots of data. I am interested in the relation between the input and the output. The input being the patient measurements or the patient's stats about the patient, and the output being whether the patient has Ebola or not. I'll just put this all into a function and try to estimate that function. That's the machine learning approach to solving it. So if you want to do decision making using machine learning, if you want an agent to do decision making, or rather an AI agent to do decision making, and for that you want to learn from data, and that's where you get into machine learning. And the moment data and machine learning come in, you're intersecting with the data science world, right? And I'll give you a better picture of this towards the end to understand exactly what this intersection is, right? And that's where again deep learning comes, right? So if you have again the same statement, large amounts of high dimensional data, very complex relations, then you use deep learning, right? This is again the slide which you had seen previously. Now again, you are interested in decision making, but it so happens that the relations that you are trying to learn are very complex and fortunately have large amounts of data. So you want an AI agent to be able to diagnose whether a patient has diabetic retinopathy or not, and in that case, you will just throw a large amount of data at that, learn very complex relations, and use deep learning for that. Right? So again, the moment you get into deep learning, you are intersecting with the data science world, right? Now last, I need to talk about reinforcement learning. So here an agent actually interacts with the environment and then tries to learn certain rules about the environment, or tries to learn how to best act in the environment so that it gets good rewards for its actions, right? So classic example here is chess, which is a very deep sequential decision making process, right? So you make one move and it might have impact 20 moves down the line, right? And you don't really know what that impact is. So when an AI agent has to learn in a very dynamic environment. Why is this dynamic environment? Because you are not the only one in the environment. You have an opponent also. He might choose to do something based on which your good move might become bad or your bad move might become good, right? So you don't know how dynamic that is going to be. And this is a sequential decision making being unrolled over very many steps, right? A typical chess game would last for many steps. And then you don't know what you did at the 10th step, how is it going to affect the 50th step, right? So you don't have that information. You only have partial information with you, only what you are doing immediately, right? And there is no explicit supervision at each step. So when you're trying to teach an AI agent to learn chess, it's impossible for every move to say whether this was a good move or not, simply because even you don't know. It depends on so many other factors. It depends on what the other guy does. It depends on how you back this move, right? So if you have moved a piece to a good position and the obvious thing was in the next move to have some protection for this piece, which you did not do, then a good move would turn into a bad move, right? So you don't have this explicit supervision at each step. All you have are these one-off rewards at the end of the game. So the agent has played the entire game. Now it knows whether it won the game or lost the game. And then based on that, it can decide whether its actions were good or not, and it can try to understand the importance or the goodness of each of these actions and then learn how to interact with the environment in the future, right? So typically what you would do is run a large number of simulations where the AI agent keeps playing. It loses games, it wins games, and every time it loses or wins, it propagates back this information to all the moves that it had done. That this set of moves led to a bad outcome, this set of moves led to a good outcome, and that's how it learns how to, given a particular state of the board, what is the best move to take, right? And that's what reinforcement learning is all about, right? This is again data driven because you need to learn a lot of examples of previous games and then try to figure out what are the best actions and so on. Right? So machine learning, deep learning, reinforcement learning, this data-driven part of AI for making decisions or learning or training an agent to take decisions is what intersects with the world of data science. So this is the first intersection with the data science. Again, at the end, I'll have a picture which will make this much more clear. So I'll stop here and then I'll talk about the last set of activities, which is perception, communication, and actuation. Thank you.